Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Here with some thoughts on today's fight. It's going to go off in just a few hours between Nicky Cook and Ricky Burns in the UK. Now just remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let me also say, too, my views on this fight might differ a bit from the public narrative. It's my own personal belief that sometimes a fighter is shot and the public doesn't realize it. These fighters only fight twice a year these days, sometimes once a year. And we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes with the fighters. Now, let me just say this. A fighter can be shot, and by shot I mean far off his prime, but yet can still give you 4 or 5 quality rounds and can still be a threat to knock out the other guy for 4 or 5 rounds while they're operating at 100%. But then after those 4 or 5 rounds, they'll lose it all, right? The nagging injuries that have plagued them, the hand injuries, the poor stamina, it'll all come to bear right around that 4th or 5th round mark. I personally believe that that is the case with Nicky Cook, right? Take a look at Cook's fight against Roman Martinez. That knockout is curious. When you look at it, you have to ask yourself, what exactly happened to Nicky Cook? Was he really that hurt in the fight? Well, what's disturbing, and I understand Nick is the former champion, but what's disturbing is that since that fight, Nicky Cook has only fought once, right? He's only fought once since March of 2009, and that was against a fighter with a sub-500 record. Now, of course, we're hearing that Nicky Cook has back issues that kept him out of the ring for much of the last 2 years, right? And Nicky Cook at the weigh-in actually did not make weight. He had to go work out, come back sweating profusely just to make weight. One wonders, what's Nicky Cook doing if he's not fighting? Shouldn't he have more than enough opportunity to make weight, to actually train, to actually be prepared to make weight? Now, Cook's style is very demanding. He's a mid-range hooker, right? That means he has to track you down and get close enough to you to actually hurt you, right? This is not Vladimir Klitschko throwing punches from distance, who can kind of, on boxing ability, win fights where you don't get close enough to him to really test him. In Nicky Cook's case, as you see in the Roman Martinez fight, he literally has to be involved in shootouts to win fights. Kind of like a Matthew Macklin style, right? Well, you know, the problem he's going to have is that Ricky Burns, who looks like he's tall, looks like he's lengthy, but doesn't use length well, looks like he has a jab, but doesn't really use it much, doesn't really have the kind of game that can hurt you from distance. He himself has to come inside and operate up close. He hurts you with hooks. In my opinion, Ricky Burns is also a mid-range hooker. Ricky Burns is going to be athletically pushing this fight. He's going to be up close on Nicky Cook, pushing the issue, I believe, knowing in the back of his head that Nicky Cook, after 4 or 5 rounds, might be a shot fighter. The bet I'm recommending here, and it's high risk, but you know what? I'm a risk taker. This is a gambling site. The bet I'm recommending here, to get around the awful minus 650 line that I'm seeing on Ricky Burns, right? Burns is a big favorite. We want to tilt the odds in our favor. I don't believe in betting a lot of money on minus 650 lines. The bet I'm recommending to get around the casino odds. And yes, there's considerable risk involved. Absolutely. Don't come crying to me after the fight if you don't understand the risk before the fight. I'm warning you up front This is a risky play, right? This is a play for men and women. It's not a play for boys and girls. I like both guys by knockout. If you're in the UK and you can get these odds, and this is a UK fight, you can get 6-4 on Burns by KO, and if Nicky Cook gets lucky, you can get 10-1 odds on Nicky Cook by KO, right? Even though I don't think Nicky Cook gets a KO, I think Nicky Cook, quite frankly, is a shot fighter after 4.5 rounds. I want exposure to those odds, right? Keep in mind, all I'm trying to do is make money, right? I could believe in Ricky Burns, but if I can also get exposure at 10-1 to Cook by KO, that's a prop I cannot ignore. So if you're able to place that bet, in other words, if you're not in some country like the United States where we don't even get the opportunity to take both guys by KO, I would seriously consider it. Keep in mind, this is a 12-round fight. If Nicky Cook couldn't even make it to the 5th or 6th round against Roman Martinez, how is he, 2 years later, after one fight against a sub-500 fighter, after missing weight, after having back problems, how is he going to go 12 rounds against Ricky Burns? I understand Ricky Burns doesn't hit that hard, right? But at the same time, you need to separate out fighters in their prime from fighters who are past their prime, nursing injuries in the ring, hoping to get lucky early in a fight against the current champion. That's who I believe Nicky Cook is right now, right? If you aren't fortunate enough to live in the UK, and if you don't have the opportunity to take both guys by KO, then I hope you take a look, and this is of course only if you're gambling in a place where gambling is legal. I hope you take a look at the under 9.5 rounds. I understand Ricky Burns doesn't hit that hard, but I hope you take a look at the under 9.5 rounds. That's the midway point of the 10th round. You can get that at a plus 170. And all I'm saying is, for me at least, it's a red flag when I see a veteran like Nicky Cook and he's not fighting. The last time he fights a guy with a winning record, he's knocked out. You know, I have to question whether that guy is ready to make it to the midway point of the 10th round. I have my doubts. I think fans always, when they're handicapping fights, picture the fighters as if they are in their primes. All I'm saying is this is boxing. Many of the guys out there getting paychecks right now are past their primes. I think Nicky Cook is one of them. So I'm not expecting this fight to go the distance. My position is a risky play. I fully understand that, but I question whether Nicky Cook is healthy. Let me also say this too. Ricky Burns, let's talk about him. You know, you saw Ricky Burns in with the long jabber, Joseph Laria. I know Ricky Burns won that fight. I know they stopped that fight. Laria had an injury in the fight. But all I can say is, if you are of the mindset that Ricky Burns is a long jabber, then explain that fight. Take a look at the video. Burns is in with the long jabber, is consistently out-jabbed throughout that entire fight. Looks amateurish, quite frankly. Was not able to keep up with Laria, in my opinion, in any real sustained manner. Right? Couldn't fight that fight from distance. Granted, Cook is shorter than Burns. Laria was taller than Burns, at least seemed that way in the ring. At a minimum, Laria fought longer than Ricky Burns. The point I'm making simply this. If Ricky Burns is in the fight and Burns has a distinct foot speed advantage on Nicky Cook, right? If Ricky Burns is in this fight, doesn't he have to come inside against Nicky Cook? I mean, can Burns win the fight from distance? I know he looks good moving around the ring, but just like John Paul Mendy against Lucien Boutte, Mendy, looks like a jabber until you realize the only way he can hurt you is with hooks. He doesn't have a long, right hand that he can throw from distance, right? He has to come in with hooks. All I'm saying is Ricky Burns can't fight this fight by long distance. He can't keep Nicky Cook at the end of a jab. He's going to have to come inside. You're talking about a fight between two mid-range hookers. Even though Ricky Burns doesn't hit that hard, I'll be surprised if somebody doesn't hit the canvas in this fight based on styles. It's a high-risk play. As I said before, this is for men and women. This is not for boys and girls. If you understand the risk involved, then I like the under 9.5 at plus 170. I also like both guys by KO. Burns at 6/4, right? At plus 150. Cook at 10-1, right? A plus 1,000. As I said, if I wanted to play it safe, I would take Burns at minus 650, simply to win the fight, but this is gambler's advisory. This isn't safe advisory, right? I'm expecting a stoppage in this fight. I hope you're on both sides of this bet. I think the over-under is mispriced. I think it's too high at under 9.5. Quite frankly, I think by the start of the 6th round, it's going to be apparent that Nicky Cook's best days are behind him. I don't blame any prize fighter for taking a shot at the title, even when they're past their primes. There are many second and third acts in boxing history, but all I'm saying is back problems and boxing, they don't go together. Also, when you're out of the ring for a sustained period of time and then you come back and you fight a sub-500 fighter, that's not convincing to me. Let me know your thoughts. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. And all I ask is win, lose, or draw, right? If Nicky Cook goes the distance and wins this fight by decision and you want to rip me, I invite you to leave your post-fight comments here on YouTube. Thanks for watching.